In this next series of videos, we're going to be adding CSS to our website. And one of the most noticeable things about CSS is the addition of color. So what we're going to start with on this video is building a color palette, which also happens to coincide with a process check that you have. So to do that, we are going to use Adobe Illustrator. If you have the icon at the bottom, go ahead and click on it. If not, search for Adobe Illustrator. Most current version may look a little different than mine depending on when you're watching the video, but most of this stuff stays pretty consistent from version to version. Okay, and then we'll get rid of any of this stuff that's going on here. Go up to File, New. We're creating for web, so we may as well go ahead and select it. Yeah, so we'll select web up at the top here. If you don't see that, and you don't see the same exact preset that I'm doing, no big deal. What you just want to make sure is that you have, something not too big, about 1000 by 700 pixels is fine. So if I click this, I get that, but I can also just dial it in here to whatever size I want. So just for grins, I'll do what I just said, 1000 tab, and we want it in pixels, 700 tab. We'll go with the wide orientation, which will change that to 1000 by 700. Just one artboard is good. We don't need a bleed or anything like that. And if yours is not set to RGB color, make sure that it is. And then go ahead and click Create. So what we're going to do here is make like a little example website just to test our colors before we decide on them. And as part of the homework for the week, you would have been given a website, maybe this exact one or maybe something similar, that deals with color palettes, because there is, when you read the parameters for this project, only certain color palettes that you're allowed to use for this project. So if we go ahead and look just real quick, I'll have a site here that shows the basics of color palettes, and I just want to emphasize the ones that that you can use. So when you get to this site, I had a little error when I copied the link, but basically what you want to do is get into this page here, which my link will take you to, and we're going into basic color schemes, basic color theory. So your assignment will be to read all this, familiarize yourself with this. And when you finally get down to color harmonies, basic techniques for creating color schemes, these are the color schemes that you are allowed to use for this project. Would be a complementary color scheme, an analogous color scheme, a triadic color scheme, a split complementary. Do not use these two just in general. They're very difficult to pull off, so especially for an intro class, don't even want to go there yet. In Illustrator, you'll see me go pretty quickly through the color guide, but if you want to learn more about it, I'll have a link under content for this video, and I'll just show you real quick where that takes you. So on this page, there's 3 different videos on color. The first 2 have to do with the color guide, and then the other one's kind of a random Illustrator thing. Okay, so a couple important things. One, I'm just going to start out kind of sloppy experimenting here, but by the end I'll show you what the minimum requirements are for you to have done for the process check. So make sure you watch the whole thing. And don't be surprised if you have to do this more than once to get it right. I mean, that's the goal, is to learn how to do this. Okay, so especially if you're not familiar with Illustrator, just follow exactly along with me here. And so first things first, if your Illustrator doesn't look like mine, we should be able to get it pretty close by going up to this little icon here, selecting Essentials, and then once again going back to the same icon and selecting Reset Essentials. And we should be pretty close here. So the first thing we want to do is select our main color. So I'm going to double click right here, and I'm going to go through the hues on this color picker, and let's say that I want something in, oh, I don't know, let's go for the yellow-green area. And so up at the top are my lighter colors. Down near the bottom are my darker colors. Towards the left side is desaturated colors, and towards the right are fully saturated colors. So I'm going to pick something moderately dark and not so oversaturated. Okay, so I'm going to go with that. I click OK. That's my base color right now. I don't want a stroke going on, so I'm going to bring the stroke forward by just simply clicking on it there in the tools and then clicking none. Now I'm going to draw a rectangle with that color. And the rectangle tool is here, but it's housed with a bunch of different tools. So if you don't see the rectangle, you may see the oval tool or the ellipse tool. Hold down the mouse, select a rectangle tool, and then simply just draw out a rectangle. Now this opened up automatically for me when I double clicked on the color over here, but assume that it didn't for you. I will, like Yoda might say. And if ever I have a panel and you don't, you always find it by going to Windows. And so we're going to pick color guide is what I'm after. Now, and this is actually a great example because you see how this, even though this was selected, this opened up with a totally different color selected here. That can easily happen with this color guide. It's kind of weird how it will shift colors depending on what you had. You would think it was based on what you clicked on last, but it doesn't always work that way. If I bring my fill color forward over here by clicking on the fill, it should change to that color. But just to avoid this in the future, once we get the color palette we want, we're going to save out our own set of swatches. So first thing first, let's set what kind of color scheme we want. We already went over the ones that are allowed for this project. So I'm going to select from this list one of the available ones, happens to be set to it already, split complementary. And so these are my dominant full color based on what I selected, and these are tints and shades of that color. So now what we want to do is build some swatches based on this color. So I'm going to go up to Window. I'm going to find swatches, usually alphabetically. And first thing I'm going to do is just clear out everything that's in here. And you don't have to worry about this getting rid of all these colors permanently. It just gets rid of them for this particular document. Oh, and look, I just made like a little rookie mistake here. I had this selected, and as soon as I clicked on something, it switched. So I'm going to Command Z, go back to the color that I had, click away to make sure that's not selected, and then I'm going to click on the first color in here, click on the last color in here, hit the trash can, and say yes, I want to discard those. Then and you can see this switched away again, so I want to click on this to wake that color up, bring it forward, reselect my, I kind of had to wake this up by double clicking on it, and then it went back to the colors that were there before. So now let's see here, there is, yeah, so it says save color group to swatch panel. So I click that, and oops, let me Command Z that, and let me click on the very first one up here. Rookie mistake again. Command Z, click away, go back in here, click on the first one, and then go to the all the way over and shift click. Hold down the shift button and click so that these are all selected, and now click on that. Now they're all here, and now we can start to build our page. Okay, so here are the requirements for the process check. So let's go ahead and do all of these things inside of Illustrator now. And again, remember, this will require some experimentation. I'm going to click on this rectangle I made, go over to the corner of it, and drag it out a little bit bigger. I'm going to say that this is going to be my background. Then I'm going to take the text tool, and I'm going to click and drag with it. And I want just the basic text tool. So if you hold this down, you'll see well, it's called the type tool. You don't want any of this other stuff, just the first one. Click and drag puts this lorem ipsum text in here. I'll put the cursor inside of here, get it blinking inside of here, or a selection like this, and then I'll go Command A to select all of it. We're going to use the font Verdana. Okay, and you can get there a little bit quicker just by typing in V and then selecting it. And then we want this to be 16, and we're going to mimic what it would be like, and you'll see in the requirements that you have to have a line height of at least 1.4. And that'll make more sense when you watch videos. But for now, just trust me, set this at 16 by 22.4, which is the amount of leading that you have. And then the next thing we need is a sample headline. And for that, we're going to use the same type tool, but we're not going to click and drag. This time we're just going to click and type, and we're going to put example headline. We're going to swipe across it again, select it. If it's not on Verdana, we're going to change it to Verdana, and we're going to set the size of it to 48. Then we're just going to do a little rearranging, make this look a little bit cleaner. Maybe make this box a little bit bigger if we need to, whatever it takes to make that look good. If the text column has become too long or too short, we can change that by going over to the sides. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do is make each one of these a different color, but we want to make sure that we're establishing the correct hierarchy. So the most important thing would obviously be the headline, then the text, and we have to make sure that both the headline and the text are clearly visible against the background using our selected colors. So I'll show you a bad example first and then some better examples. So hopefully you can see that that's a bad example, very hard to read. Everything kind of blurs into one blah of colorness. So you typically have to work with the tints and the shades to make something fall back and to make another thing jump forward. So you just keep selecting the items in here and going to the 3 different color groups and selecting different amounts of each color until you get something that actually works here. Now I could do just the opposite of what I did there and make the background much lighter and the text much darker, but this is totally up to you. You're the designer on the project. And then the last thing is we just want to make 3 boxes off to the side that contain the 3 colors that we're using. To do that, back in Illustrator, we're going to grab the rectangle tool, click and drag, make a rectangle, and then we're just going to make 2 more copies of that, which an easy way to do is to hold down, is to act like you're going to move it, but then also hold down the Option key, which makes a copy, hold down the Shift key, which constrains it, and Command D to make another copy. Then I'll select all 3, move them into position so it looks a little neater, and then I'm going to select each color here, remembering where it is on here, so about 3 in, looks like that's already the right color. Then I'm going to find out which color that is, second from the end. Select this box and then color it with that color. Same thing down here. That one right there. And boom, I have my sheet ready for the process check. Once you've done enough experimenting and are satisfied with your color, you want to get the build for each color. So open up a Word doc, give a description of the 3 different colors, and then simply select the color here in Illustrator, double click on the color picker, and then this right here is what you want to copy and paste next to your color name in a Word doc. To export this document for easy turn in an online class, we're just going to simply go to File, Export, Export As. In the screen that comes up, we're going to make sure that we check Use Artboard. We're going to change the format to JPEG. We're going to name it with our last name, underscore first name, underscore colors. Make sure you pay attention to where you're saving it so you can find it later. You click Export, and we just want this set at RGB and 72 pixels per inch maximum quality.